Good morning. Good morning. I am Marcy Thompson, your worship associate today. May we all rejoice in the upcoming spring as these days get longer and longer and we begin to see new growth emerging around us. We gather again here today as we move forward in our individual and collective journeys towards spiritual growth, social transformation, and environmental responsibility, and living out these values through worship, reflection, connection, and service. Many of us today continue to experience deep anxiety about the future, but we are stronger as a community. We are stronger together. You are part of a community that welcomes all individuals, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, income, ability, or spiritual beliefs. This is as important now as it has ever been. Whether in person or via live stream, we share this precious time and space. Let's rejoice in our time together today. Today, following service, is our Wussy G fundraiser, the Holy Chili Cook-Off. This is our 18th annual Chili Cook-Off, and it will be a very spicy good time. We welcome all to join in Metcalf Hall right after service this morning. Please join in the fun and give your input as we try to determine whose chili is the best. Now, let us prepare our minds and hearts for the spirit of worship.
Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow, beckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time. Here we are gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our own shadows, faced and befriended. With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all our inner trembling, let us model the health we seek for all and lean into community. Somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds. May Woodbury's words guide us into this sacred time and space. Come, let us worship together.
I now invite Madeline Blaine forward to light our chalice.
Holy Hay, or Happy Holy. You would often hear this among neighbors and friends and family greeting each other when I was growing up. Holi is a spring festival for the religion, the Hindu religion. It is surrounding usually the gods Krishna and Radha. There's lots of stories and different legends of Holi. They center very much around forgiveness, love, rebirth, and new beginnings. This festival is surrounded by colors and reminds us that spring brings the budding and flowering, new growth, renewal everywhere. Happy Holi. I'm going to introduce the hymn 178. So some of you are familiar with this hymn. It is called Raghupati Raga of Raja Ram. So this hymn is a very ancient hymn in India, and it's been made popular by Mahatma Gandhi, and some of you might have heard him sing it. This hymn talks about Rama and Krishna, who are main gods around the festival of Holi. They're incarnations of Lord Vishnu. So there are several gods in Hinduism. And so these are branches that are gods that you have heard about. This hymn, on the other hand, on the other side from the religious, it covers unity and love. And when Gandhi sang it, one of the lines says, "People call you by many names, and we ask for blessings for everyone." And back then in India, there was a division between Hindus and Muslims, and this one of the ways for him to bring us together. Raghupati Raghav refers to Lord Rama, but it was very commonly used in India to talk to multiple religions. So the lyrics are in Hindi, and I'll read you the first line, and please do not worry if you mispronounce. I have done that many times. So the first line goes, Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Patita Pavana Sitaram. I'd like to now invite who are young and young at heart to come forward. All right, we could get started. So today in RE, we're celebrating the Hindu holiday of Holi. Holi is a spring festival that originated in India and now is celebrated across the world. There's lots of story related to Holi, and many Hindu communities prefer one story over the other. But the messages are pretty much the same. Holi is a celebration of new beginnings that encourages people to forgive one another and make new friends. There's one story in particular that helps us understand this festival. It's about God Krishna, who is the god of compassion, and he loves Hinduism. So when Krishna was a boy, he drank some tainted milk. Like sometimes we drink some things that don't look really right, and he had turned the dark shade of blue. So his color, I don't know if you can see in the picture up there, he's a different complexion. He was self-conscious about his skin. You know, sometimes we feel, oh, we look different. And so he did not want to be around people who looked different from him. When he met a girl called Radha, and he really wanted to be friends with her. But he was worried about the blue skin. So he asked his mother that, what can I do? I'm worried. I look different, but then she's not going to talk to me. So his mom said, well, you can paint any color. You can be anything and use colors to paint yourself. And so you can be the same color and paint some color on Radha, and then you'll be similar to celebrate the differences, right? So he painted on her, and she painted colors on him. But they then became great friends. They grew older, and that's the legend that started the festival of Holi. So when we celebrate Holi and we throw colors at each other, so we're going to make some colors and then throw colors, right? And so that helps us commemorate our long friendships, just like Radha and Krishna did. We'll also be making some treats in Ari and making our powders. And so I now invite the rest of the congregation to sing children's and teachers out to religious education. The words are in your handbook.
I would like to prepare us for meditation today using a Sanskrit prayer. Om Bhurvuvasya Tadvitur Varnam Vargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Na Prachodayat. Earth, heaven, and the whole in between. The excellent divine power of the sun. May we understand the radiance of God and the nature. May this inspire our understanding. I invite you to take a moment and appreciate the new beginning. Take a deep breath and let us meditate.
In a moment, we will light candles in recognition of the joys and sorrows resting in our hearts. If you'd like a candle brought to you, please raise your hand and Marcy will bring a candle to your pew. After we light our candles, we will share a time of silence together, and then we will sing our centering hymn, number 34, Though I May Speak of Bravest Fire. Let us now kindle the light.
Our reading for today is from Roshi Joan Halifax. All too often, our so-called strength comes from fear, not love. Instead of having a strong back, many of us have a defended front shielding a weak spine. In other words, we walk around brittle and defensive, trying to conceal our lack of confidence. If we strengthen our backs, metaphorically speaking, and develop a spine that's flexible but sturdy, then we can risk having a front that's soft and open. How can we give and accept care with a strong back, soft front compassion, moving past fear into a place of genuine tenderness? I believe it comes about when we can be truly transparent, seeing the world clearly and letting the world see into us.
I want to start this morning by sharing with you a grave injustice. I have been restricted in my freedom in my own home. Specifically, I am not allowed to tell certain dad jokes anymore. I can no longer respond to the statement, "I'm hungry," by saying, "Hi, hungry, nice to meet you, I'm Seth." Additionally, I have been prohibited from responding to the question, "Guess what?" by saying, "Chicken butt." As you can plainly see, I have a hard life. Actually, I'm really glad for these restrictions because it means my kids have shown the ability and willingness to practice a crucial life skill, setting boundaries. Perhaps surprisingly, setting boundaries is not something we're good at doing or teaching others how to do as a culture, even within Unitarian Universalism. An example of this is a staple of my Unitarian Universalist upbringing as a kid, as a book that many of us are probably familiar with, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. If you're not familiar, The Giving Tree is the story of the relationship between a boy and a tree, where the tree keeps giving to the boy over the course of his life. When he's young, she gives him a place to play and a place to rest in the shade. When he gets older, he wants money to buy things, so she gives him her apples. When he becomes an adult, she offers her branches so that he can build a house, then later her trunk so that he can build a boat, and then finally, when he's old, her stump as a place to sit. And I remember listening to this story many times on Sunday mornings, occasionally in the service, sometimes down in religious education, and hearing the virtue of her generosity and her unconditional love lifted up as the best thing ever, very uncritically. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I started to question the generosity of the tree. It wasn't until I was an adult that instead of seeing the relationship between the boy and the tree as loving, I started to see it as toxic. Asking a loved one to give of themselves until they are destroyed, that is not love for the boy. That's not from the boy. That's using someone, right? That's not love. And the tree should have set a boundary and said, "No, I'm not willing to destroy myself so that you can have what you want." When someone asks us to give in a way that harms ourselves, ideally we can set a healthy boundary and say no. And so this morning I lift up the Giving Tree to you with a very different message. It is a terrific example of a failure to set healthy boundaries. Let's take a moment to talk about what a healthy boundary means. Imagine with me, if you would, a single-cell organism. We're talking like a bacteria or fungus or something like that. And if I messed the science of that up, please, scientists, don't get mad at me. Let's go with bacteria. The cell, right, the single cell, is filled with cytoplasm, and floating around in that cytoplasm, that jelly-like substance, is some DNA, some ribosomes, some proteins, a whole bunch of stuff. Now, all of the parts of the cell are important for it to function for the most part, but do you know what one of the most essential is? It's the cell membrane, the thing holding the entire cell together, because without the cell membrane, the whole thing would just float apart, right? There wouldn't be a cell. It's essential that there is that cell membrane holding everything together. So besides holding everything together, the cell needs the cell membrane to also keep stuff out. So it's it needs to be a two-way thing. And it needs to be able to send stuff out, right? So there's all this complicated things that this barrier has to do. It has to keep things together, it has to keep stuff out. But there's also waste products. Just like any other organism, there's waste products that have to get sent out. And there's stuff that needs to come in too, right? Like you need nutrients to come in. This is how a cell membrane works. It keeps some stuff in, it keeps some stuff out, it takes some stuff in, and it sends some stuff out. This is called a permeable membrane. And this makes sense because if it didn't have a cell didn't have a permeable membrane, if its cell membrane was like a fortress wall, it would die, either from a lack of nutrition or from a toxic internal environment of all the waste that gets built up on the inside, right? So the only way for a cell to exist is with a permeable cell membrane, a boundary that lets the right stuff in and sends the right stuff out and keeps the bad stuff out and keeps the good stuff in, right? All sorts of things going on there. And it just so turns out that this is exactly the kind of emotional and social boundaries that we need as human beings. We need boundaries that keep out the bad stuff, but still allow the good stuff in. Think of the emotional walls that we sometimes put up. If you've been in a relationship with a member of your family of origin or otherwise, where there was a lot of yelling or meanness or put-downs, it's possible you put up walls designed to keep all of that out. Some of us, whether we've experienced trauma or abuse or neglect or any number of harmful emotional experiences, some of us have put up some really impressive emotional walls to keep all the negative stuff out, right? It was how we survived, survival tactics. The problem with really intense walls like that, though, is that they're usually not permeable, and so they don't let the good things we need in, too. They tend to keep everything out, including love, joy, and connection. That is not good for our spirit or our souls. Think of a time you've encountered someone with their walls up, whatever the reason is. What was that experience like? Did you feel like you were able to connect with them? Or maybe you are someone who has your own walls up. Do you ever feel like your walls get in the way of connecting with other people? To be able to live, we need our soul and our spirit to have emotional integrity, permeable boundaries that hold us together, that keep out harm, but that also let in the good, the love, the connection. Our bodies are actually full of permeable boundaries. Our skin keeps most harmful stuff out, but still takes in some vitamins from the sun. Our eyes let in and receive light so that we can see. Our lungs take in oxygen from the air and send out carbon dioxide. These are permeable boundaries that make choices. They don't just let anything in. If our lungs took in carbon dioxide, we would also die, right? They don't just let anything out. They send out the waste. They send things out that we don't need, take in the things that we do. And our emotional and spiritual lives also need to function this way. To be able to feel good as an individual, to be able to be emotionally and spiritually whole, we need good, strong, permeable boundaries that let in the things we want and keep out the things we don't. Thus, the importance of the ability and willingness to say, no, that's not okay. People stay in abusive relationships in part because they struggle with setting healthy boundaries. No, it's not okay to yell at me for making a normal, everyday mistake. No, it's not okay to hit me. Many of us struggle with smaller boundary settings too, though. No, it's not okay that you always leave the dishes for me to do. Or even, no, it's not okay for you to leave your dirty laundry on the ground in our shared space. Boundaries keep us healthy, safe, and sane on so many levels. We need them. Healthy boundaries are necessary at all levels of our lives. They're necessary to keep our cells intact. They're necessary to keep our bodies physically intact. They're necessary to keep our spirits and our emotional systems in balance and in good health. They're needed in our relationships to make sure that we're being respectful and caring with one another. And so, surprise, surprise, healthy boundaries are vitally important in communities as well. Communities like the Winchester Unitarian Society. Setting healthy boundaries can sometimes be a challenge in liberal religious communities like ours. We want everyone to feel welcome, and we do. That's genuine and real. Sometimes, though, when we encounter behavior from other members of the congregation that is difficult, harmful, or inappropriate, we struggle to set healthy boundaries. This happened to me when I was a layperson at one of the congregations I was attending. I was at a board meeting. I was not a member of the board, which is the equivalent of the standing committee here, and someone just started yelling because they were upset and banging the table. And I just sat there and I was like, what is going on? And I waited for somebody to say something because I was new, and nobody said anything. I was like, okay, well, something's going to be said after the meeting then, right? Or someone's going to circle back around with this person. And I looked afterwards, nothing happened. Too often we just move past those moments without saying something in the moment or addressing it with the person afterwards. Every congregation I've been in, I've heard good-hearted, well-meaning you-yous say things like, oh, yeah, but that's just Jane being Jane. She's been coming here for 20 years. We all know she doesn't mean anything by it. No, that's not the right response. Setting a boundary with someone else in your community's inappropriate behavior can feel difficult or even scary, and I get that. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's necessary. Just like its boundaries are necessary for us if we're going to be healthy, it's necessary for communities if we're going to be healthy as a community. We as a people are not generally comfortable with or even willing to tolerate conflict. We can be very conflict avoidant. So we let things slide by. We let our own and our community's boundaries be violated because we're not willing or able to speak up. Another common avoidance tactic that church members sometimes use is, but we want everyone to be welcome here. To which I respond, every person is indeed welcome here, but every behavior is not. And if someone's behavior is harming members of this community, and we've communicated that, and they are unwilling or unable to stop, then they can't come. They are welcome here, but their harmful behavior is not. And then sometimes, with really strong value to you say, oh, but we believe in forgiveness, and we believe in redemption. And I am 100% there. I believe in forgiveness and redemption. And I believe that people can change. I'm all for giving people second chances. But if we have conversations with folks, right, and sometimes even doing that's hard, as we've already talked about. But if we have those conversations and they continue repeating the harmful behavior, or if we set up an agreement with them about what needs to change for them to continue participating in our community and they break it over and over, then yes, absolutely, the response needs to become, we need to be willing to say, no, that is not okay here. You cannot continue to do that and be part of this community. And one of the challenges sometimes is the question of what is okay and not okay. We're probably all in agreement that physically hitting someone else in our community is out of bounds. Other areas, though, might involve assumptions and cultural differences. Interrupting is a good example of a behavior that is sometimes less clear about whether it's appropriate or not. Some people grow up in large or loud families where you have to speak up and interrupt just to be heard. For me, if someone repeatedly interrupts me, it's a sign of disrespect and indicates to me that they're not listening. So there's not a right or wrong in that, just different expectations. If I had a friend who continually interrupted me, I'd try to talk with them to see if we could find a middle ground and create some shared expectations. One of the things we do in church communities is sometimes to create a set of shared expectations of each other, and we call that a covenant. And we're going to be talking more about that here in the coming year in my time with you, as that is one of the things that's on the table for us to consider creating together, is a congregational covenant. And so as you see some advertisements about that, I hope you'll consider it and engage. It is something we do in religious community. Our youth groups often, almost always, have covenants that they create together. The staff here has a covenant it's created, and we're going to be considering whether we should create a covenant here ourselves. And the importance of boundary setting goes beyond even communities. On a bigger scale, there's boundaries we need to set about oppression. Boundaries that ourselves and our communities, as well as our cities, states, and our country, need to be able to set. We Unitarian Universalists, we say no, that is not okay to racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. When we vote for politicians who support this position, when we go to marches and protests, when we give money to organizations working to change oppressive structures, we are saying no, this is not okay, it needs to change. And in this current moment, the specifics of how have yet to become fully clear. But what is clear with the current national administration is that we are going to have to continue to say, no, this is not okay, even more and more over the next 4 years. While we're waiting for some of those strategies to emerge and become clear, we don't have to wait to start the work, though, the work of practicing setting boundaries. Because boundary setting is a skill, and it's a skill that translates across contexts. As we learn to set better boundaries in our personal lives, we also become better at setting boundaries in our communities. And as we learn to set better boundaries in our communities, we become better at setting boundaries out in the wider world. So if setting boundaries is a skill, that means it's something we can practice and get better at, which is really important. Because as I've said, setting boundaries with someone, even someone we love or someone we care about in this community, can feel scary, terrifying, risky, and vulnerable. If we feel like we're not very good at it, sometimes practice can help. And one of the ways we can practice is by doing. And so we're getting to the how of things, right? How we set boundaries matters a lot. There's a difference between the tree and the giving tree saying, "Hey boy, what's wrong with you? Why are you only coming to me when you need something? The request you're making of me will literally destroy me. Don't you realize that's a selfish and self-centered thing to do?" So that's one approach to setting boundaries, right? Or, there's more than two, but I'm just offering two. Or, but here's another possibility. The tree could say, "Boy, my dear friend, we've had such a long relationship. I love you. And you may not be aware, but you've started coming to me only when you need something. And that doesn't feel very good. And also the things you're asking of me would really hurt me. Without my branches, I will die. I love you, but I'm not willing to sacrifice myself like that for you." Right? There's a really different tone and tenor between those two things. It's the difference between presenting a hard, brittle defensive front, like we heard about in our reading this morning, and the soft front, strong back response that Roshi Halifax suggests. That first approach can be pretty hard to hear when you're on the receiving end, right? And is likely to make the boy feel defensive. The second, soft front approach at least opens the door, makes it more likely that the boy might be better able to hear and learn from the questions. And note that I said more likely. Even when confronted with love, even when boundaries are set from a loving place, you still might get a defensive response. But the soft front, strong back approach is more likely to help the relationship grow and evolve, and it's more likely to help the person receiving the boundary to be able to hear it and do something with it. Also note that Roshi Halifax said in the reading that the strong spine should be both strong and flexible. The flexible part is also key. Too much strength turns into rigidity and becomes its own kind of weakness. In a terrible storm, a tree whose entire strength is built in rigidity is more likely to break in two or be uprooted. A tree whose strength includes flexibility may be bent over by the strengths of the winds, but once the storm is past, a sturdy and flexible tree is often able to straighten once again, even though the storm bent them out of shape. Our roommate or partner comes to us frustrated and says, "You never do the dishes, and I'm fed up with doing more than my share." It's the difference between responding with, "What are you talking about? I do my share, and you leave your clothes all over the place." Or responding with, "Wow, I hear that you're upset. Can you tell me more about that so I can understand better?" With a defensive front, we're like the rigid tree. We can't bend a little so that we can respond with gentleness. The second response shows the sturdy flexibility, the ability to bend with the wind a little bit and then still respond from a place of gentle, loving strength. This is my hope for us and for the world at large, that we do our emotional and spiritual work of healing and growth, so that instead of presenting a hard defensive front to the world that masks the weakness we're hiding behind it, that we're able to engage from a place of a soft front, sturdy and flexible spine in place. There may be times when the only way we can set boundaries is with a rigid front, and that's okay. I'd rather we set the boundaries we need than not. And our need for integrity, our need to be heard, our need to be respected, our need for justice and equity is more likely to be heard, received, and acted upon if we're able to offer it with love. Set the boundaries you need. Your soul and your spirit deserve that. And the more we're able to set our boundaries with love and flexible strength, the more we're able to open the door to the possibility of healing and growth for others. The more we will open the door to deeper relationships and growth, healing, and transformation for all. I hope we can set boundaries from this space, and I hope we can receive boundaries from this space. When we are all living from our best selves, we are setting boundaries with love, and we are receiving boundaries with love. What if the world looked like this? I know you mean well, but it's not okay for me when you do that. It makes me feel disregarded and diminished. Oh, thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize that wasn't working for you. I'm so sorry. I'll try and do better. Boundary set, boundary received. Soft front, sturdy, flexible back. Love growing in the world. Amen.
Is it? Oh, there we go. Now comes the time for our offering. One hoped-for goal of our church is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We are now asked to make an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that helps support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. Our Share the Plate organization this month is La Colaborativa, an organization which has supported Latinx immigrants in Greater Boston for over 35 years. They partner with the community to provide resources to vulnerable community members, including newly arrived immigrants, undocumented families, non-English speakers, as well as low-income tenants and workers. They are committed to serving, protecting, celebrating, and uplifting Latinx people, ensuring a brighter future for all. You may give cash or electronically with information provided in your order of service and on the giving page of our website.
The
Thank you for that blessing. Those who wish to do so are invited to join in the unison affirmation. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community in and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love. I would like to invite Brad Steele up to discuss stewardship.
The theme of several recent services has been to allow oneself to receive and experience joy, even in trying times. This morning, I want to talk to you about giving joy and the joy of giving, because this is church pledge season, and this is my opportunity to speak to you about the importance of pledging as generously as you can prudently afford to pledge. I've stood before you at least the past 2 years in March and done my best to remind you of the vibrant pastoral, music, religious education, and social action ministries the church offers, which not only benefit us, but which also impact the larger communities of which we are members, actualizing our values in the world we live in. After the pandemic, I spoke about the importance of stabilizing the church and its finances, which, as with virtually all churches, had been negatively impacted by the COVID years. And you responded, and our pledge campaign met its goal. Last year, I was back again with an equally or probably even stronger entreating. Okay, we have been through the COVID crucible and come out the other side. Pews are filling close to pre-pandemic levels. Children sitting up front and listening to the first reflection actually outnumber their teen aides sitting alongside them. The choir's ranks are growing, and they aren't singing with masks on anymore. The hymns and anthems are filling the sanctuary with glorious sound. But, I added, we've had several years of successive deficits, and while they've been manageable thus far, at a minimum we need to get closer to operating at a break-even level. And oh yes, our well-liked, even-keeled minister of 10 years is leaving. We'll need to do the difficult and somewhat costly work of trying to find our next settled minister without losing our hard-earned, modest momentum. And again, you responded. And we not only met our ambitious pledge goal, but again, we exceeded it, breaking the record for any previous pledge campaign. So I'm standing before you again this March, and I wish I could simply tell you, listen, you've been great. Thank you for everything you've done and everything you do for the church. Don't spend a lot of time and energy thinking about what to give next year. Give what you've given, or what is convenient to give, or what your first impulse to give tells you. Sorry, can't do it. At the risk of conjuring up comparisons to the boy who called wolf one too many times, my message this morning is this coming year is going to be a critical year, when hopefully our engagement with and support for the church is not only sustained but is strengthened. Why is it critical? Well, let me offer a few reasons. One, we need to find a new minister. The UUA estimates a typical ministerial search requires about $15,000 to conduct, an expense we don't normally incur, but which we need to build into next year's budget. Two, we would like to find and hire a strong candidate. The strongest candidates are most attracted to churches with stable finances that can afford to pay a competitive salary with attractive benefits. Three, the current financial year will likely be our 6th consecutive year experiencing a net operating loss before tapping into reserves if we exclude the 2021 PPE $90,000 loan that was forgiven and became a grant. Our deficits have been shrinking, with this year's projected to be less than 1% of the budget. But while they've been manageable to this point, we really do need to try to get back to our annual revenues, at least meeting our annual operating expenses. Pledges are by far our largest source of revenue, representing between 55 and 60% of our total income. 4, we did raise the bar higher last year with our record pledge commitments, but we need to keep it elevated unless we feel that the value of the pastoral music RE or social action ministries is overstated and we are willing to divest in one or more of them. And frankly, I don't hear any sentiment for doing that. Finally, in these times as the events of the past several months have unfolded, do we really think that the importance and the necessity of institutions such as the Winchester Unitarian Society have diminished? Or do you, like me, find solace here, as well as a place where frustrations can be channeled constructively in ways that hopefully will help those who will be most adversely impacted by changes in our political landscape? Our pledge campaign goal this year is $450,000. That sounds like a big number, but it's only 3% higher than our current year pledge commitments totaled, which is about 1% less than the 2024 inflation rate in the Metro Boston area. If you pledged last spring and can increase your pledge for the coming year by at least 3%, that would be great. Pledging even more would be even better, because we have sadly lost several pledging members in the past year, and several have moved away as well. If you did not pledge last year, please consider pledging this year. Also, realize that we got a little bit of a late start in doing the pledge, getting the pledge letters out. Hopefully most of you got them this week. But it would be great if you could respond in the next 4 weeks or so. We have to put together an annual budget for next year and present it at the meeting in May for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad, for that and for all the work you do for our community. I now invite you all to join in singing our closing hymn, number 1, in our gray hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross the Door.
Friends, not only do I hope these walls hold the love in, but we'll go back to our permeable membrane, right? I also hope we send some love on out as well, because that is what we are here for, is to care for each other and to care for the hurting world around us. So may we do that by offering our love and sharing our love, and sometimes that means by saying no. Go and be blessed and be a blessing.
Please read together the words for extinguishing the chalice printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let us all proceed to Metcalf Hall to enjoy a tremendous chili cook-off.